The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
This is Gerard with episode number 34 of Florida's Fresh Mix on the Florida Podcast Network. A random mix of Florida's freshest personalities. Listen in, y'all.
Hello. Welcome to Florida's Fresh Mix podcast. My name is Amber, and I'm the lead content producer of the Florida Podcast Network. Gerard is the host of this awesome show. Gerard, how's it going?
It's going well. You know, we just had a nice long weekend, and that's always good, right?
Yeah, for sure. What did you do for 4th of July?
Worked the whole weekend. And so this weekend, I worked all weekend. How about you?
I did a little bit of work. I didn't work all weekend. That kind of sucks, Gerard. I'm sorry to hear that. Actually, I was really expecting you to be like, I had a barbecue. I had fun with my friends and fam. It's all good. Your vacation's around the corner, hopefully.
I'm saying I really need a vacation. I'm just too busy doing too many things. But some of those things, luckily, are temporary. I'm hoping to do a staycation very soon since I live in Miami Beach, and then take a real vacation, particularly because I think that my girl deserves to get on a plane and see something that she's never seen before. So, but this weekend was no barbecues, no fireworks, just a lot of guilt because I couldn't do what I wanted to do.
A lot of lawyering, as you say.
And a lot of lawyering, yeah. So anyway, can we move on? Because
we can.
All right.
Sorry to depress any of the listeners right now, but we have a great show for you guys today. It's actually a two-parter. So this is part one of Gerard's conversation with our guest, Yanique DaCosta. She's the founder and creative director of YKMD Visual Communications, which provides graphic design services to corporate event planners and trade show managers. Super cool. I really, really enjoyed your conversation with her. Gerard, she is full of energy, full of life, full of passion, like the majority of our guests. But in this part one, I really like how you guys honed in on how she found her love for art at such a young age, as well as her education growing up in Jamaica as a child. And you all also dove into how her family reacted when she told them that she was going to be an art major in college in the States. So,
yeah, I mean, I think, when you're from the Caribbean, your parents, obviously I'm making a generalization, but, they want you to be, if you're an immigrant from the Caribbean in the United States, or your parents are immigrants, they want you to be a success. And they base their ideas of success on what they see around them. And so we go into that. And I just think that her ability to branch out was very brave and just do what she really loves, which is art. And so I'm all about that.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned it in the interview. She really went against the grain, if you will, with her career choice. But she's a major success, and she dives into more of what her company is in part two. So you guys are definitely not going to want to miss that. It comes out on Friday, July 22nd. So be there, Fresh Mixers.
Yes, be there. Don't be square.
Don't be a square. We don't like squares. Circles only. Circles only. I'm just kidding. We don't exclude anyone. Gerard, I know you want to give a special shout out to a very special nonprofit organization.
Yes, well, one certainly stands out. I have been on the board of directors for Guitars Over Guns, which is an amazing nonprofit based out of Chicago and Miami and now in LA. And it's all about the kids and teaching them after school how to, rather than, have idle hands and getting into trouble or doing whatever they're going to do, or just being bored, they learn how to be in a band, play instruments, write rap lyrics, rap at all, sing. And a lot of it is about mentorship because so many of the kids that pass through the program end up being mentors for the younger kids who are still in school. And with the internet and everything, we got YouTube videos and Instagram videos and Facebook videos, and teaching them how to, once they graduate from the program, how to monetize that and actually make a living from it if that's what they want to do. Or maybe on the mentorship side, maybe they just need someone to listen to them or someone to talk to, someone to inspire them. It covers all the bases. It's a wonderful program. So this charity, I'm very proud to be a part of it. And there is a link in the show notes that can direct you. Please donate, donate, donate. I do not have any shame about asking you to donate to this very worthwhile charity. Every penny, it could be $1, it could be $1 million. That's great. It doesn't matter or anything in between. Check it out. And I guarantee, especially if you see any of their performances, you will be inspired. So that is my plug. And I'm going to shamelessly plug. Thank you, producer Jemmy, for allowing me to do this in every episode. And I will shamelessly plug them from now until time immemorial.
That's right. Get used to it, people. Get your wallets out. Do the right thing.
Make it rain.
Make it rain. Yes. Get those bills out. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into Gerard's conversation, part 1 of Gerard's conversation with Yanique DaCosta of YKMD Visual Communications.
Let's do it. All right. Today we're here with Yanique DaCosta, the founder, the brainchild, the creative behind YKMD Visual Communications. We've got another entrepreneur in the house. What's up, Yanique?
Nothing much but the sky. Honestly, I am here. I'm ready. I'm all about the chatting. So,
all right. Well, it sounds like you're ready to touch the sky. You know,
absolutely.
Like Kanye said in his more sane days. Yeah, exactly. So,
poor Kanye.
Listen, I'm very interested to talk to you for several reasons. You are a Jamaican-born U.S. immigrant. My parents are from Haiti, so I get all that. So we can talk about some of that. But of course, we're going to talk about YKMD and what you're doing with that. But I'm more interested in your origin stories and the decisions you've made. I'm going to pepper you with tons of questions. I'm just going to be asking you, why did you do that? Why? It's going to become very annoying for you. I have a feeling that your answers are going to be illuminating, super interesting, and also hopefully inspiring to folks. So if you're expecting this to be a plug for YKMD, which we will do, obviously, no. I'm more interested in hearing about Yanique as a person and how that mind works and how that decision-making works. And so let's get right into it. We know you're an artist. When did you first know you wanted to be an artist? What kind of artist are you?
All right. So I almost feel like I got to address all the things that you said before your question. So number one, I've asked myself why way too many times. So I'm not afraid of being asked why. And even though YKMD is a company, me and YKMD are the same because it is my brainchild. And there is no way to, at this moment, have YKMD without my hands all in it. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about me and why I became an artist and when I knew I wanted to be an artist, I mean, when I knew I wanted to be an artist is a whole different ballgame from how long I've been doing artistic things. My grandmother has been tired of me since birth because her sheets were always cut up. There was always markers all over the walls and all kinds of foolishness. So I'm growing up.
And you couldn't erase those markers back then.
Stop it.
They had to be painted over.
Listen, it was, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. I mean, and like literally, she stopped putting new sheets on my bed. So when you go to my bed, the sheets would like literally just have scissor cuts in them because she was just tired of buying me new sheets. You would think I was like destitute or something. But growing up in Jamaica, there are these like exams that you take where they're called, at the time they were called CXC, where you basically focus on specific number of subjects and you're tested on those subjects after the end of a 3-year period of like learning all these things. And when I was choosing what subjects I wanted to focus on, I wasn't going to choose art. And then my art teacher was like, what? And my grandma was like, I guess you could choose an easy subject. And so I did the thing. And then I moved to America and I was like, but I like art. Art's cool. I already don't want to move to America. So I'm just going to do things I like. So I went to a magnet school for art. And then went to college and got a scholarship. And since my parents weren't paying for anything, I was like, all right, I'm just going to go to school and do the thing I actually like to do, since I get to choose my major, because the only person who is financing my education is me and whoever blessed me with these scholarship funds.
Okay. So you were born an artist, but you didn't officially pursue it until much later. Okay.
Yeah. So, always drawing, painting, doing the things.
Okay.
And I always felt like Yanique was going to be, and I actually have it in like an old sketch pad since like high school, where it says Yanique, the graphic designer, fashion designer, interior designer. And I was just like, oh, this is a thing. This is a thing.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So now let's walk through the timeline. So I know that you, as you said, you were born in Jamaica, and, your parents did very well to send you to one, if not the best private schools in Jamaica. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I went to the St. Andrew High School for Girls. And if anybody were to speak to this is an all girls school, mind you, if anyone were to speak to the young ladies who attended that school without the "the" in front, they'd, be swiftly corrected. Or sometimes the school is affectionately called Andrews, but only by the young ladies who attend the school. Anybody else were just like, no. We went to the St. Andrew High School for Girls. And even before then, I was always afforded the opportunity to attend varying private schools for my elementary education. So pre 7th grade, so 6th grade, and so on. So all of those schools were always deemed some of the best, if not better, educational institutions in the island.
So I have a feeling you obviously did well in school. You can brag about yourself a little bit, but tell us,
it depends on the year, right? So I would travel a lot from one side of the island to another, because my grandparents raised me and they lived on the east side of the island, and my mom lived on the west side of the island. So every weekend I'd travel back and forth, and what's it not. And when I really started getting settled at Holy Childhood Preparatory, that's actually where I started to excel from a educational perspective, because when I first got there, I was like mediocre at best. It was just like, okay, all right, well, she's good at math, she's good at art, but like, whatever. And I feel like Mrs. Dixon, who really which is my 6th grade teacher, who really showed a real interest in me and said, no, this child is brilliant. I just need her to focus. I'm tired of kicking her out of class for not doing her homework, because that used to happen regularly. I was always outside doing my homework because she would never let me stay inside the classroom until I finished my homework, and then I had to come back inside. But as I got tired of doing that. And then over time, I actually excelled in the class. And it was me and this guy named Paul Grant who would battle back and forth for being number one in the class. And then when we took the all Allen exam, I excelled there. I think my grades at the time, and this is really sad because I don't really remember, but I never got anything like under 90 anything. And then I was number 2 in the Caribbean for mathematics that year, which is a pretty big deal, especially since it's.
Why weren't you number 1? That's what my parents would say. Oh, wow. No, I'm just joking.
No. Low key, I had to only talk about number 1 in the island because, they don't really do. Yeah, you're right. Caribbean people are weird.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So how old are you when you came to the States? And here's the first why. Why did you end up in the States?
So I was 16, and because my mother said so. That's there's no other, it's just my mother said so.
Okay, so why did she want you to come to the States?
Well, she was living here and pursuing a new life for herself and pursuing her education. So she is a doctor now where she focused, where she did her PhD in hospitality and adult education with a focus on emotional intelligence and its effects in hospitality industry. But it was just like, all right, well, you graduated high school. That's another thing. So you graduate high school in Jamaica in like grade 11. So you don't have to do like 12 and 13. So I graduated when I was in grade 11. It was like, okay, you graduated high school. So what are you still doing there? Just come here. Your mother's already here. Mm-hmm. So why are you still there living with your grandparents? Come here. So that was the thing.
Okay. So your mom was a doctor. I didn't know that data point before. So that makes my question that much easier. So when did you tell your mom you wanted to be an artist, and what was her reaction, and how long did it take for her to, warm up to that idea?
I guess, 2006. And I mean, she supported me going to like a magnet high school here. Cause then, came to America. I was 16. They were like, oh, you're too young to go to college. Go back to high school, which by the way, was really annoying. Because I was just like, why do I have to do this remedial work? And she supported me going to a magnet school and, which I went to Dillard High School in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm focusing on just art in general. But when I told my mother I wanted to go to college and major in art, she was like, so I sent you to private school your whole life for you to learn to draw? Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna pause you right there just for a second. Are you telling me that parents from the Caribbean have a problem or probably frown upon their child not being a doctor, lawyer, or engineer? I have never heard of this. This is and your mom is a doctor, so I can only imagine. It's one thing to have like a hobby, like when you're in high school or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then once you're like, wait, you said your major? Wait, your major?
Yeah.
So, tell me what that process was like.
So my mother, she's not a medical doctor, right? So there's that nuance. But
still,
it was still more like, I mean, I think it all the way up until what year is this? This is 2022. So I think all the way up to maybe 2015, maybe 20, maybe even 2016, I was still getting slack for just like, this girl really went to college to learn to draw. This is ridiculous. And I think it's just a matter of you don't know what you don't know, right? And so within our Caribbean environment, we are accustomed to seeing Black people excel, right? But the ones that we're accustomed to seeing excel are the ones that are doctors, lawyers, engineers, even nurses.
That's a great point.
And so we want that for our children. We want the best for our children. We want them to excel in that way. And so we can only push them towards the paths that we are familiar with, the paths that we deem are successful. Now, there's also...
Just so you know, I think that's a great point that people need to understand, because I'm not passing judgment. I'm just saying there's just a consistent pattern throughout the Caribbean that it's like engineer, doctor, lawyer, but it's not because parents don't have... that's what they see right in front of them. And that's it. But, you have to give them the opportunity to have the imagination that their children can, follow their passions and follow their talents and also make a living at the same time. So I think that was a great point. But continue.
Yeah. So, I mean, sure, you see like, artists, right? But my family background becoming, that's another story. When I say artists, I mean like musicians. Mm-hmm. Even then, I was always, sent to dance classes and music lessons, and I was always like slapped on the knuckles while playing the piano. But that was never meant to be my profession. That was just to make me a well-rounded individual. But you see successful musicians, and you also see successful athletes. But for them, they're like, you have to be really special to excel in those areas. And that's really not for everyone. But here are some other areas where we're like, this can be achieved by the masses, right? Like you don't have to be like the diamond spark. Mm-hmm. And so
you could be a dentist. You could be a dentist. Yeah, right. And that's a layup. You go to dentist school, become a dentist, you'll have money, you'll be great.
Yeah. And there's also a running joke for me there, right? Because I feel like my family's always taught me that I need to be well-educated and have a certain level of perseverance so that I can be self-reliant and self-sufficient. And now I'm at the age where they're like, so you gonna get married or no? And I'm just like, when did this start to happen? When did this happen? Why are we here?
I have so many comments that I'm holding back right now, but so let's move on to what, and I meant comments about myself and my own family experiences, but this podcast is not about me. It's about you. All right. Plus I don't want to get in trouble with my family. So let's move on. So I'm going to just do a random segue. How did you find the wherewithal within yourself to resist those type of reactions? And when did you go full throttle into the art and making that your profession? How did you make your first dollar doing it?
So I don't even know. I mean, it was really like I would try what they wanted me. Like I took the LSAT. I applied to law school. I got in. I just wasn't happy about the whole thing, right? Even having conversation with a lot of my friends, I hope if they listen to this, they don't hate me. But when they were just starting their law career, I was just like, I make that money from my bed. I don't have to leave. Like, are you kidding me? I was like, that's what lawyers do. That's what I was like, this is trash. And
interesting.
And if it's about having a self-sustaining career, I was like, I literally can do that from my bed now. Getting the respect from my family while explaining to them that I was doing this from my bed was just not there. So if we were talking about like prestige and recognition, it was just like, girl, you got to go get a JD. So, again, did the LSAT, got what I thought was not a great score. Did I share it with my friends? They were like, that's amazing. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll apply. But just even in that application process, I was like, this is miserable. I was like, why do they want me to write so much? This is horrible. And I was like, wait, so you mean like when I become a lawyer, like I have to like read stuff and write stuff? That's horrible, right? But I was like, yeah, this is not my life.
Yeah, you can't take the Florida bar in pictures. You can't. You can't draw.
No, I can't.
you gotta do a lot of reading and writing.
Color. Just let me color. No. So then when I graduated from college, even while I was in college, I was like, I'm a sorority girl. So I made my fair share of friends, and I would have conversations with people, and they were like, yeah, we're doing this party, we're doing that party. And I was like, this is another thing. So my first undergraduate degree, it had 3 concentrations: drawing, graphic design, and photography. So I kind of started my own photography business while I was in college. I went and I took my little FAFSA money and I bought a DSLR camera, and I just started like snapping pictures. People like, yeah, we can hire you to come by and take pictures. And I was like, cool. And then I started also working with a nightlife website while I was in college as well. And so I started like getting access to all these like very exclusive Caribbean events, and even, like trotting up and down South Beach. I'm probably going to get some people in trouble, but like I was like, 19 years old getting into 21 and older clubs because I was, I had a camera and I was working. And I wish you could see my quotation marks, but even like sometimes we'd be at Hard Rock and I'd have to be on the phone with my boss, like, I'm not getting let in because, my ID says 19. And they're like, all right, we're going to call somebody. And they had to call 5 people and send them for me outside. But as I was going and like having, going to these different places, I started building relationships with all the different people I would meet. And I was like, hey, who designs your flyers? And they'll be like, John. And I'd be like, how much does John charge? X amount of dollars. And I'd be like, all right, cool. Well, I'll charge you X minus 5 and I'll get it to you in 2 days faster than John. And it was like, what? I was like, yeah. And I started doing that. And I kept doing that until it became, all right, we'll let you do all our flyers for the month. I'm like, cool, I'll cut you a deal. If I do 5, I'll, give you 1 free or something like that.
Straight hustle.
That was, yeah. And that was working. And when I graduated college, I actually didn't go straight into a job because really I couldn't find one. And I probably couldn't find one because my time was so divided while I was in college, right? Like I was, president of my sorority. I was, in the scholarship house. I was the events coordinator there. I was in student government. I was taking 24 credits a semester. Like I was mad disrespectful with my life. And then I had nerves to like try and have a boyfriend and stuff. So I didn't do like the internship things, but it served me really well. Like it was paying for my penthouse apartment in Miami, like easy. I mean, some weeks it was just like, oh, I work 18 hours today, like every day, but I'm self-sufficient. Who gonna check me? Nobody can. No one can take this from me. I did this by myself.
And so how did you transition to doing your hustle thing to actually working for the man and working on building brands like, Game of Thrones, True Blood, the Coachella Music Festival, Under Armour, Harry Belafonte? I mean, these are things that I'm sure that ring a bell with most, if not all of my listeners. And then you transitioned out of that. But how did you transition in?
I was kind of getting tired of going to the nightclubs every night. Like now I'm like, maybe like 22, 23. And I'm like, God, I'm tired of going to nightclubs and picking up my money. I'm tired of working 18-hour days. But now I had this very robust portfolio of photo manipulation and event promotions. And so I took that and put together a way to showcase it. And it's kind of started applying for jobs and basically using the skill sets that between my college education and my street smarts had developed, because gosh knows YouTube University is a real thing. And it got me in the door, right? So at, 22 years old, when you're like pulling in $100,000 a year, you're like, okay, this might be money. Right? Like I have no children, like I have no husband, like I'm living my best life. My mom always said, Yanique doesn't have a problem getting jobs. She has a problem keeping jobs. There are some instances where it was a cultural thing, where I would go into a cultural environment and realize that I wasn't happy because, being the only Black girl is one thing. But when you're in an environment where they're confused as to why you're not from a family with crackheads and why you don't identify with the fact that their mother is addicted to drugs because you're Black, is really hilarious. But then there are other instances where the marketing industry would kind of just take its natural shift of, why do we need to have in-house designers when we can outsource to an agency? So in that instance, like I worked one place one time, that's hilarious. I was working somewhere, and after being there for 2 months, the guy came in and was just like, yeah, we're laying off everybody except for this guy. And we're like, wait, what? And yeah, no, you guys are great. It's just that we lost our biggest client and we can't pay you guys anymore. But you just hired me. I don't understand. And so dealing with those fluctuations, because that kind of layoff situation would happen way more regular than it should, I was just like, all right, I want to be able to control my income, and I want to be able to control my environment. I want to be able to control my life. And so I had to take the reins back and then use my experience in those environments to then sell myself again to the same people who were outsourcing. So it's just like, okay, you guys have an in-house team. All right, well, I have a team that you can outsource to. Maybe your team is taking on too much work right now, or maybe you just want to do a little bit of downsizing and you need a little bit of help, or whatever it is. And so I would basically just use my relationships and contacts to sell myself that way. Because even the people who laid me off were using me as a freelancer.
Is that when you formed YKMD, or was there a gap?
So YKMD is a little hilarious. So YKMD.
First of all, I want to know what it stands for. Where did it come from?
So YKMD is actually really funny. So it's actually my name. So my name is Yanique Kimberly Ann McKnight DaCosta. It's like low-key vain. But okay, in that same sketchpad I was telling you about earlier, I've always written my initials, and then I would write interior designer, graphic designer, fashion designer. So I was just like, why not? There was a time where our company, and I say our company because I think I have an amazing team that keeps things going and makes me look way better than they probably should. There was a time when we were only specializing in working with privately owned medical practices, real estate developers, and digital marketing agencies. And people would always just assume that MD meant that we focused on some kind of medical something. Mm-hmm. And it just worked, right? Like the real estate developers just loved the letters. It just worked. It kind of fell in a way that just made it culturally acceptable.
That's what I assumed MD was about, but I had a feeling that there might be some other explanation, and so I'm glad I asked the question. So my spidey senses was on point. When you left working for the man and decided that you needed to branch out on your own, was there a gap period, or did you found YKMD right away?
All right, so it was immediate, because it was something that was actually formed while I was in. Like it was literally formed while I was in college, legally on paper, right? So it's just like this in and out. And I never dropped my clients. I always kept a client list, even if clients were coming to me and I would have to like give the work to other freelancers. I would basically be the project manager or the client relations manager in the situation. So it was always there. But in terms of me doing it full time, it was just like, if there was ever a gap between me being employed as a full-time individual and the next role, I was always just like hammering at the ground, like making it work.
You let it marinate in the background.
Yeah.
That's smart. Okay, and so then now what made you start doing it full force, and when did that happen? Was it around? Just tell me when that happened. So and why, and how did the pandemic play a role in that?
Yeah, gotcha. So 2016, I had a boss that told me, and I'm trying to share the story in like the nicest way possible, but she was just like, yeah, your face offends me. That's like the summary. And I was just like, bro, I don't need to be in this kind of environment.
Wait. Sorry, who said that?
My boss.
Oh, okay. All right.
She's like, her exact words were that my face ruined her entire day. I'm just like, bro, like, how do I, as your subordinate, have that much control over your emotions because you're confused about what's happening on my face at 7 a.m. in the morning at my desk when you're supposed to be in your office doing whatever you're not even supposed to be here. I came into work early to not have to deal with you and focus on being productive.
Wait, I'm confused by the statement itself. I mean, that could be interpreted many ways. I mean, like an expression on your face.
Listen,
the look of your face.
You were confused.
What is that?
I was confused.
The color of your face? Like what?
Well, the color of my face was the only color in the building. So that was another story altogether. But I'm not even going to go through. I'm not even going to go through that too much because it really was like, it really was a traumatic experience. Like there was definitely between HR and between like filing paperwork with like the appropriate government agencies, like it was just a whole traumatic experience that no human being should ever have to relive. Not really. Right. But it was just like, all right, I don't want to have to do that ever again. I don't want to let someone impact me in that way. I don't want to ever have to have my life controlled by someone who clearly doesn't have enough emotional intelligence themselves. So I need to figure it out. Even then, like that was when I actually opened an art studio in Atlanta. I opened up an art studio over there in, I really need to remember the name of the place, but over there in the Mutiny Art Complex, and people would come by to my art studio. And so I would literally jump on the train, leave work and like have art class. And I was like, all right, once I make enough money with the art classes, which was basically, I was like teaching children. I was doing like adult paint sips. I was doing assisted living facility sessions. Once I made enough money doing that, I would just tell this lady to go jump off a cliff and die. So, it was cool. Well, I just need to get out of this environment.
It's bad enough that she thought it, to have it come out of her mouth, child. Look, don't even get me started. All right.
Mind you, and the expectation was that I was supposed to take her to lunch, that I was supposed to mend her relationship. So I was like, well, she's my boss. This is dumb. Y'all, this is dumb. But again,
you know what? Screw having a boss at all. That's what I said over 10 years ago. And I'm not I can't look back ever again. There's no way. People are like, oh, would you ever practice law at a firm again? I'm like, don't even finish that sentence. Yeah.
And owning, that's another thing, right? So like everybody, and I think this is really important, right? Everybody is not meant to be the owner. Everybody is not meant to be the boss. Everybody has to play a role. However, it is still very important that you decide the kind of environment that you want to be in. Yesterday, my assistant sent me a message. Now, I am currently grieving. I lost my father not too long ago. And so I am like emotionally struggling in general. And so I realized that my emotions were impacting my team based on some of the questions they were asking me. Or like sometimes they'll send me a message and be like, yeah, remember to sleep this weekend. Because I'm like sending them messages at like 9 p.m. on a Sunday and they're like, something's wrong. But she sent me a message and she was just like, thank you for being a person first and a boss second. And for me, that was a really big thing because I want to be able to create healthy work environments, not just for me, but for them. Like my team knows like Friday at 6 p.m., you turn everything off. Even if I send you an email or don't respond to me until Monday. I own the business. I can work 24 hours a day. You should go to sleep. So I love being able to create a healthy work environment and be able to provide for them and their families. So it's really just about finding the right place for you. And if you're not able to find the right place for you and you have the skill set to create it, then do that.
Well, that's so important because, and I'm speaking from currently, I know more than one person that is, let's say their boss is unsavory. So, that feeling and that everyday feeling of whether you're going to, when the alarm clock goes off in the morning and whether you feel dread or happiness to go to your job and the amount of effort you put into it, the spirit you put into it, all of that comes from the top down. And there's no way around it. And so, and I'm a firm believer that if you're a good boss, you'll pull much better work product with understanding and humanity than out of fear. And the fact that some people just don't get that is bonkers to me. But So I appreciate what your colleague said to you. That's very important. And I'm sure that you found that heartening. Now, with respect to YKMD. So you are, here's a little plug time. Okay. So you guys are a graphic design firm. Now, let me ask you a dumb question. So when I tell my clients, help me understand what you do, talk to me like I'm 5. So I know what graphic design is. I think, most people have a general idea, but you're in it. You're awash in it every single day. Explain to the layperson very quickly in your mind, what is graphic design beyond, making art for marketing purposes?
Making art for marketing purposes. That's a really interesting way to put that. I don't even know. I guess people do think about it like that, but
I just made it off the top of my head. I just made it up.
graphic design is basically putting together visuals to tell a story, to evoke emotion, to get people to take a desired action. And more times than not, if you are in a retail space, is to get them to buy. If you are in a consulting space, is to get them to sign the dotted line. If you are, I don't know how many of your listeners are in law, but I'm just going to use this analogy. Think about it as like graphic design is like your opening statement. Like you want people to pay attention. You want people to listen. This is the preview of the business. Okay. This is the preview of the service. This is going to convey what's happening. And then once you get into the business, you're like, okay, this is exactly what I expected based on the visuals I saw before I opened the door, So it's essentially the visual language that we need to share with our prospective clients, our prospective customers, to get them to be exactly where we want them to be within our marketing funnel. Oh, Lord, I just used another jargon word, marketing funnel. So a marketing funnel is essentially a series of different touch points that a business would have in order to get someone to make a purchase.
Right. Well, see, that's a much better explanation than I would have given. I wouldn't have talked about marketing funnels and all that stuff. But so listen, let me ask you this before we wrap up. There's the whole idea of the starving artist. You are not been a starving artist. And from what I can tell, you've never been a starving artist. So what can you say as words of inspirations to anybody out there who wants to pursue a passion, pursue a dream, regardless of your background, regardless of whether you're rich or poor, your ethnicity, anything else? I'm just talking about a general message to anybody that wanted to go against the grain. What can you tell us based on your experience? What's the best advice you got?
Well, number one, starving artists aren't a real thing. But when I there was a point where I felt like I was a starving artist because I believed that starving artist was a real thing. It's never a real thing. And it's not a real thing because in order to propel yourself forward in anything, you need to identify your goal and then make a plan to get to that goal. So it might be sitting down and doing research. It might be sitting down and putting together a timeline. It might be trying to figure out the different resources you need in order to get to your goal. But that's literally it. And it's never going to be an overnight thing. You're never going to get from point A to point Z in 0 to 100. Even when you're like, oh, overnight success, it's not a real thing. It's not a real thing. There's a lot of trial and error that takes place along that timeline. So never feel like because your goal is or your dreams are not happening instantaneously that they're not attainable. Just make sure you're making a plan and stick to your plan. If your plan doesn't seem to be panning out immediately, make some small changes, but never change the goal.
You can follow Yanique on Instagram at Yanni Does Stuff, YANI. You can also check out YKMD at www.theyKMD.com. We've included more links in the show notes, like Yanique's LinkedIn, so definitely take a look at those. I think more than any interview I've done, it's not that she was disagreeing with me, but Yanique is a unique individual because she just told me, like, I don't agree with exactly what you said. And she understands nuance, which I really appreciated. And at the end of the day, we agreed more than we disagreed. But I loved the pushback. That's what this is all about, folks. I mean, I'm not right all the time. Just ask my girlfriend. Okay. So, and I love to be challenged. And she certainly did that. I think more than any other guest we've ever had. So on top of that, in my fresh take, I just wanted to point out something she said that I thought was very poignant, which is that not everyone is meant to be a boss. The reason I thought this was particularly poignant is because we've done so many episodes interviewing so many people that have followed their passion and ended up leaving the rigmarole of working for the man and becoming their own boss. And it's such a common theme. And she has done the same. Yanique has done exactly that. But she did point out something that hasn't come up before, which is that not everyone is meant to be a boss. And I love the little anecdote she gave about one of her employees saying, thanks for being a person first and a boss second. Look, folks, if you can't be a kind person and if you can't create a healthy work environment, then maybe you don't need to be a boss. Or maybe if you can't handle stress at being at the top of the pyramid, you shouldn't be a boss. Or maybe it's something that you need to learn before really taking that leap. Because a lot of times success is about timing. And you want to make sure that the people that are working for you respect you. They are motivated to be their best selves and they like you. If you're a boss who operates through fear rather than through kindness, in my humble opinion, you've got a problem. And I think that people are more highly motivated if they want to do right by the person who's teaching them, paying them, mentoring them, and hopefully making them better. So if someone's fearful to talk to you, how are they going to learn from you? Maybe you're just not ready to be a boss at this very moment. So just let that marinate a little bit. I could go on and on about this topic because I feel very, very strongly about it. But I really, really appreciated when she said that. And the other thing she said that I appreciated was overnight success is not a thing. 99% of the time, that's completely true. Have some patience. And, you put all the building blocks in place to the best of your ability. A lot of starting a successful business as an entrepreneur it's just a lot of trial and error. You can watch all the YouTube videos. You can read everything you want. You can watch all the TED Talks and you can heighten your probability of success. But there's no way you're going to nail it the first time. It's like trial by fire in the entrepreneurial game, okay? And sometimes this goes hand in hand with, are you ready to be a boss? The point that I was making before. Because if you are trying to become a success in rapid time and making yourself a boss before you're ready to be a boss, then you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So it's about timing. It's about knowing what you know and what you don't know and knowing whether you're ready. And sometimes this comes from having a great mentor and people around you that can be truth tellers. And that is my fresh take, folks. So remember, there's a second half to this great interview with Yanique DaCosta, and I'm sure you will enjoy it as much, if not even more than this one. And it covers different topics, and I will have a different fresh take on that one. So please tune in. For details and show notes about today's show and our guest, go to freshmixpodcast.com. I'd really love your feedback, both on today's guest and on my fresh take. The Florida Podcast Network has a closed Facebook group exclusively for super fans of their shows, like Florida's Fresh Mix. So we all look forward to hanging out in there with you. Just search for FPN Insiders on Facebook to leave us comments and get early scoops, contests, and other special treats. Or you can just complain about how Florida is so big that, particularly if you live in South Florida like me, you have to drive so far just to cross the border. Even just to get to Mickey, I've got to drive 3 hours, y'all. And if I need to get to Georgia, which is right above us, I have to drive even further, okay? I don't even know how long that drive takes because I've never done it in one shot, okay? That's how long Florida is. Look at it on a map. And I don't want any jokes about what Florida looks like. Okay, we're all adults. All right. Moving on. Be sure to visit all the great shows on the Florida Podcast Network. You can find them at floridapodcastnetwork.com. Keep catching who's fresh in the Florida Mix with Florida's Fresh Mix podcast.
Flintstone Media has been the digital messaging bedrock of several brands and businesses, serving as a highly resourceful podcast production house and consultancy firm for over 6 years. Visit flintstonemedia.com for podcast samples. From show development and setup through recording and distribution, work with a leader in the industry and add a new podcast to your brand's content offerings. That's flintstonemedia.com.